a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy.
Margrethe II of Denmark. Margrethe II is the Queen of Denmark. She is also the supreme authority of the Church of Denmark, and Commander-in-Chief of the Danish Defence. Born into the House of Glücksburg, a royal house with origins in northern Germany, she was the eldest child of Frederick IX of Denmark and Ingrid of Sweden. She succeeded her father upon his death on 14 January 1972, having become heir presumptive to her father in 1953, when a constitutional amendment allowed women to inherit the throne. On her accession, Margrethe became the first female monarch of Denmark since Margrethe I, ruler of the Scandinavian kingdoms in 1375–1412 during the Kalmar Union. In 1967, she married Henri de Laborde de Monpezat, with whom she has two sons, Crown Prince Frederik and Prince Joachim. She has been on the Danish throne for years, becoming the second longest reigning Danish monarch after her ancestor Christian IV. Early life. Princess Margrethe was born 16 April 1940. At Amalienborg in Copenhagen as the first child of the Crown Prince and Crown Princess. Her father was the eldest son of the then reigning King Christian X, while her mother was the only daughter of the Crown Prince of Sweden. Her birth took place just 1 week after Nazi Germany's invasion of Denmark on 9 April 1940. She was baptized on 14 May in the Church of Holmen in Copenhagen. The princess godparents were King Christian X, hereditary Prince Knud, Prince Axel, King Gustav V of Sweden, Crown Prince Gustav Adolf of Sweden, Prince Gustav Adolf, Duke of Västerbotten, Prince Arthur, Duke of Connaught and Strathern. She was named Margrethe after her late maternal grandmother, Crown Princess Margaret of Sweden. Alexandrine after her paternal grandmother, Queen Alexandrine, and Ingrid after her mother. Since her paternal grandfather was also the King of Iceland, she was given the Icelandic name Þórhildur. When Margrethe was 4 years old, in 1944, her first sister, Princess Benedicte, was born. Princess Benedicte later married Prince Richard of Sayn-Wittgenstein-Berleburg, and lived some of the time in Germany. Her second sister, Princess Anne-Marie, was born in 1946. Anne-Marie later married Constantine II of Greece and now lives in Greece. Margrethe and her sisters grew up in apartments at Frederick VIII's palace at Amalienborg in Copenhagen, and in Fredensborg Palace in North Zealand. She spent summer holidays with the royal family in her parents' summer residence at Gråsten Palace in southern Jutland. On 20 April 1947, King Christian X died, and Margrethe's father ascended the throne as King Frederick IX. Heir presumptive. At the time of her birth, only males could ascend the throne of Denmark, owing to the changes in succession laws enacted in the 1850s when the Glücksburg branch was chosen to succeed. As she had no brothers, it was assumed that her uncle Prince Knud would one day assume the throne. The process of changing the constitution started in 1947. Not long after her father ascended the throne, and it became clear that Queen Ingrid would have no more children. The popularity of Frederik and his daughters, and the more prominent role of women in Danish life started the complicated process of altering the constitution. The law required that the proposal be passed by 2 successive parliaments and then by a referendum, which occurred 27 March 1953. The new Act of Succession permitted female succession to the throne of Denmark, according to male preference cognatic primogeniture, where a female can ascend to the throne only if she does not have a brother. Princess Margrethe therefore became heir presumptive on her 18th birthday, 16 April 1958. Margrethe was given a seat in the Council of State. She subsequently chaired the meetings of the council, in the absence of the king. In 1960, together with the princesses of Sweden and Norway, she traveled to the United States, which included a visit to Los Angeles, and to the Paramount Studios, where they were met by several celebrities, including Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis and Elvis Presley. Education. Margrethe was educated at the private school Enzale School in Copenhagen, from which she graduated in 1959. She spent a year at Northumberland Lodge, a boarding school for girls in Hampshire, England, and later studied prehistoric archaeology at Girton College, Cambridge, during 1960-1961, political science at Aarhus University between 1961 and 1962, attended the Sorbonne in 1963, and was at the London School of Economics in 1965. She is a Fellow of the Society of Antiquaries of London. Queen Margrethe is fluent in Danish, French, English, Swedish and German, and has a limited knowledge of Faroese. Marriage and children. Princess Margrethe married a French diplomat, Count Henri de Laborde de Monpezat, the 10th of June 1967, at the Church of Holmen in Copenhagen. Laborde de Monpezat received the style and title of His Royal Highness Prince Henrik of Denmark, because of his new position as the spouse of the heir presumptive to the Danish throne. They were married for over 50 years, until his death on 13 February 2018. Margrethe gave birth to her first child 26 May 1968. By tradition, Danish kings were alternately named either Frederik or Christian. She chose to maintain this by assuming the position of a Christian, and thus named her eldest son Frederik. A second child, named Joachim, was born 7 June 1969. Succession. Shortly after King Frederick IX had delivered his New Year's address to the nation, at the 1971-72 turn of the year, he fell ill. At his death 14 days later, the 14th of January 1972, Margrethe succeeded to the throne at the age of 31, becoming the first female Danish sovereign under the new Act of Succession. She was proclaimed queen from the balcony of Christiansborg Palace the 15th of January 1972. By Prime Minister Jens Otto Krag. Queen Margrethe II relinquished all the monarch's former titles except the title to Denmark. Hence her style, by the grace of God, Queen of Denmark. The Queen chose the motto, God's help, the love of the people, Denmark's strength. In her first address to the people, Queen Margrethe II said, Constitutional role. The Queen's main tasks are to represent the kingdom abroad and to be a unifying figure at home. She receives foreign ambassadors and awards honors and medals. The Queen performs the latter task by accepting invitations to open exhibitions, attending anniversaries, inaugurating bridges, etc. As an unelected public official, the Queen takes no part in party politics and does not express any political opinions. Although she has the right to vote, she opts not to do so to avoid even the appearance of partisanship. After an election, where the incumbent prime minister does not have a majority behind him or her, the Queen holds a Dronningerunde, in which she meets the chairman of each of the Danish political parties. Each party has the choice of selecting a royal investigator to lead these negotiations, or alternatively, give the incumbent prime minister the mandate to continue his government as is. In theory, each party could choose its own leader as royal investigator. The social liberal Det Radical Venstre did so in 2006. But often only one royal investigator is chosen plus the prime minister, before each election. The leader who, at that meeting succeeds in securing a majority of the seats in the Folketing, is by royal decree charged with the task of forming a new government. Once the government has been formed, it is formally appointed by the Queen. Officially, it is the Queen who is the head of government, and she therefore presides over the Council of State, where the acts of legislation which have been passed by the Parliament are signed into law. In practice, however, nearly all of the Queen's formal powers are exercised by the Cabinet of Denmark. In addition to her roles in her own country, the Queen is also the Colonel-in-Chief of the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment, an infantry regiment of the British Army, following a tradition in her family. Ruby Jubilee. Queen Margrethe II celebrated her Ruby Jubilee, the 40th year on the throne, on the 14th of January 2012. This was marked by a carriage procession, pet gala banquet at Christiansborg Palace, and numerous TV interviews. Immigration debate. In 2016, an interview within the book De Dybesrodder she showed, according to historians at Saxo Institute, a change in attitude to immigration towards a more restrictive stance. She stated that the Danish people should have more explicitly clarified the rules and values of Danish culture in order to be able to teach them to new arrivals. She further stated that the Danes in general have underestimated the difficulties involved in successful integration of immigrants, exemplified with the rules of a democracy not being clarified to Muslim immigrants and a lack of readiness to enforce those rules. This was received as a change in line with the attitude of the Danish people. Personal life and interests. The official residences of the Queen are Amalienborg Palace in Copenhagen, and Fredensborg Palace. Her summer residence is Gråsten Palace near Sonderborg, the former home of her mother, Queen Ingrid, who died in 2000. Margrethe is an accomplished painter, and has held many art shows over the years. Her illustrations, under the pseudonym Ingehild Grathma, were used for the Danish edition of The Lord of the Rings, which she was encouraged to illustrate in the early 1970s. She sent them to J.R.R. Tolkien, who was struck by the similarity of her drawings to his own style. Margrethe's drawings were redrawn by the British artist Eric Fraser in the translation published in 1977 and reissued in 2002. In 2000, she illustrated Henrik, the Prince Consort's poetry collection Cantabile. She is also an accomplished translator and is said to have participated in the Danish translation of The Lord of the Rings. Another skill she possesses is costume designing, having designed the costumes for the Royal Danish Ballet's production of A Folk Tale and for the 2009 Peter Flinth film, De Vilds Vanner. She also designs her own clothes and is known for her colorful and sometimes eccentric clothing choices. Margrethe also wears designs by former Pierre Balmain designer Erik Mortensen, Jørgen Bender, and Birgitta Taulo. The Guardian in March 2013 listed her as one of the 50 best-dressed over 50s. Margrethe is a chain smoker, and she is famous for her tobacco habit. However, on the 23rd of November 2006, the Danish newspaper BT reported an announcement from the royal court stating that in future, the Queen would smoke only in private. A statement in a 2005 authorized biography about the Queen focused on her views of Islam. "We are being challenged by Islam these years. Globally as well as locally, there is something impressive about people for whom religion imbues their existence, from dusk to dawn, from cradle to grave. There are also Christians who feel this way. There is something endearing about people who give themselves up completely to their faith. But there is likewise something frightening about such a totality, which also is a feature of Islam. A counterbalance has to be found, and one has to, at times, run the risk of having unflattering labels placed on you. For there are some things for which one should display no tolerance. And when we are tolerant, we must know whether it is because of convenience or conviction. Queen Margrethe II visited the Memorial Hall of the Victims in Nanjing Massacre by Japanese invaders in Nanjing, the 27th of April 2014. The Queen said the Memorial Hall records the darkest part of history in 77 years. We cannot change the cruel history, but can learn a historic lesson and experience from it. Today, we commemorate Sinberg. We need not only to review the past, but also need to face up to the future, she said. Margrethe II and Prince Henrik watered a tree symbolizing peace on the square outside the Memorial Hall. They also laid down a yellow rose, named by Sinberg's hometown as Forever Nanjing, Sinberg Yellow Rose, in 2004.
Brought to you by WikiVidi documentaries. Would you like to know more?